So, my name is Sophia. I'm a local guide in Siem Reap. If you wish to visit the temple in Siem Reap, please contact me.
Before we go any further with this journey, I want to talk about Sofik. You see him throughout this episode and past episodes and in future episodes. He wasn't just our guide. He was our anchor. He was patient in a way that never felt forced, attentive without ever rushing us. He was deeply in tune with the places that we were moving through and with us as people experiencing that. He didn't just tell us what things were, he gave us time to feel them, to ask questions, and to sit quietly when words weren't needed. By the end of this trip, he didn't feel like somebody we hired. He felt like our friend. Someone who cared about these places, about the stories that they carry, and about what they've experienced. If you're planning a trip to Cambodia and are looking for someone who leads with kindness, patience, and real knowledge, I'll put Sofik's information in the description box below. Learning this landscape through him changed the entire experience. And that really mattered. Because today isn't about Angkor at its height. It's about what came before it. We leave the flat land behind as we drive. The fields stretch wide on either side of the road, and the horizon is open and unbroken. Everything feels level. I couldn't even find the mountain in the distance as we drove. And then, almost without warning, the only warning you'll get is that you have to stop and show your tickets in order to enter the park. But the road begins to rise. At first it's subtle, a slight incline you feel more than you see. And then the land changes texture. Rock replaces dust, and the forest tightens its grip. And then there's this moment, a real one, where you realize, oh, you're going up. Not metaphorically, but physically. You don't arrive at Phnom Kulen suddenly. You climb it. The mountain reveals itself through effort, through elevation, through tight turns, through the way your body starts to register that something is different now. This isn't a place built to impress from a distance. It's a place that asks something of you on the way in. Because Phnom Kulen was never meant to be approached casually. This is where the Khmer kings were crowned, where water was poured not as celebration, but as a commitment. Not a claim to power, but to accept responsibility for what would flow from it. Standing here, the myth of the churning of the ocean of milk stops feeling abstract. Before anything is gained, before the nectar or reward, there is ascent. There is preparation. There is the understanding that whatever rises next will affect everything below. Phnom Kulen isn't powerful because it towers over the land. It's powerful because everything downstream depends on what happens here. As we move higher, the mountain gives way to water. At first, the river looks quiet and ordinary, almost easy to overlook, until you look down and realize the riverbed itself has been carved. Hundreds, thousands of Shiva lingas etched directly into the stone. These aren't decorative symbols placed for beauty. They're functional. Each linga is vertical, anchored into the rock beneath the water. In sacred geometry, the vertical line is the axis, the point where above and below meet, where energy can move without unraveling the system. Here, the lingas aren't scattered randomly. They form a repeating pattern, a grid of alignment. As the water flows, it doesn't simply rush forward. It is slowed, recentered, realigned again and again. Every ripple passes over a reminder of center. This is geometry as stewardship, not about ornament, not about symbolism, about stability. We then move away from the carvings, through the trees and through the jungle, until the river quietly reveals a secret, a spring. Water bubbling up from the earth, constant and unforced. The sand beneath it is white, bright white. Nowhere else here looks like this. People gather here quietly and they drink the water, they splash it on their face, and they leave offerings, incense, money. Not because they were told to, but because they recognize something. This is where the movement begins. Watching the sand shift as the water rises, it's impossible not to see it. It's the churning. Earth and water stirring together. Something hidden being brought upwards. Something dormant entering circulation. It looks like the churning of the ocean of milk. Not as a story, but as a process. Not gods and demons pulling a serpent, but water and earth meeting and activating, transforming. Here, creation isn't dramatic, it's continuous. The source doesn't explode outward, it quietly insists. And from here, the water moves forward again, back into the river, back over the Lingas, and back into the world. Source, alignment, and circulation, again and again. The pace changes before you even arrive. The forest thickens and the roads narrow. Voices lower without anyone asking. There's a sense that whatever comes next isn't meant to be rushed. We move upward through stone and steps, past incense, past offerings, past people who aren't sightseeing. This is Preah Ang Thom, the sleeping Buddha. Carved directly into the rock face, he doesn't stand apart from the mountain. He is the mountain. People come here quietly to sit, to pray, to ask for relief, to ask for strength, to ask for nothing at all. There's a softness here, not fragile, but intentional. The Buddha reclines, not in sleep, but in release. A reminder that rest itself can be sacred. And elsewhere in this complex, in a separate space entirely, something else holds its ground. A Shiva Linga. Massive, anchored, standing firm. Water is continuously poured over it by its devotees, not ceremonially, practically, routinely. Devotion folded into daily movement. People bring bottles, fill them, touch the water to their faces, and carry it with them. This isn't symbolic, it's relational. The linga here doesn't represent the human body, it represents the universe, the central axis, the organizing principle that holds everything in place. Here, on Phnom Kulen, these two forms don't compete, they coexist. The Buddha offers release, and the linga offers structure. Stillness and orientation, compassion and order. One teaches how to let go, and the other teaches how to remain aligned. Standing between them, you begin to understand something quietly profound. Rest without structure drifts. Structure without rest hardens. This place holds both, without explanation, without hierarchy, without needing you to choose. We begin to leave the mountain and release it, and go looking for water. The waterfall doesn't arrive quietly. You hear it before you see it. The sound of movement, of weight, a force no longer held in place. As you get closer, the air cools and the mist rises. The noise grows louder. Here, the water isn't being aligned or directed. It's free. It spills over rocks in wide sheets, fast and heavy, breaking into pools below. And everywhere, there is life. Children dart through the spray. Families gather along the edges. Laughter cuts through the sound of falling water. And the monks, they're everywhere. Young monks wading in, robes hitched up, laughing and splashing and testing the current. And older monks standing back, watching, smiling, feet in the water, as if reminding us that devotion doesn't always look solemn. This isn't a place set apart for ritual alone. It's lived in, shared, and enjoyed. The water here is holy, not because it is controlled, but because it is generous. No hierarchy, no separation. No sense that you need permission to enter. The mountain gives what it has gathered, and everyone is welcome to receive it. Here, the sacred doesn't mean serious. It means inclusive. It means joy counts, play counts, presence counts. You start to understand something simple and rare. Power doesn't have to be guarded to be holy. Sometimes it needs to move fast. Sometimes it needs to spill. Sometimes it needs to touch everyone at once. And the mountain allows it. After Phnom Kulen, the story doesn't soften, it sharpens. This is where force gives way to precision. Banteay Srei doesn't confront you with scale. It confronts you with detail. You don't step back to take it in. You lean in closer, almost instinctively. This temple is smaller than the great monuments of Angkor, but that isn't a limitation. It's the point. Banteay Srei was not built to assert power. It was built to study it. Commissioned by a royal scholar rather than a king, this temple carries a different kind of authority. One rooted in learning, in discipline, in care. The stone itself tells you that. Pink sandstone, softer than what we've seen elsewhere, allows for an extraordinary level of detail. And that softness was not wasted. Every surface here is carved, not densely for spectacle, but precisely with restraint. Lines are clean and proportions are exact. Figures are exact. Nothing feels rushed. Nothing feels excessive. This is power expressed through discipline. After the ascent of Phnom Kulen, after the alignment and release, Banteay Srei feels like what comes next, refinement. In the story of the churning of the ocean of milk, the struggle isn't the end. The extraction of power isn't the goal. What matters is what happens after, how power is shaped once it exists, how it is handled, how it is refined so it doesn't destroy what surrounds it. Banteay Srei feels like that question carved into stone. Here, myth isn't shouted across massive walls. It's folded into detail. You have to slow down and look closely. Follow the story line by line. This place teaches you how to see. And that feels intentional in the truest sense. Not symbolic intention, but practiced intention. Precision requires patience, restraint, knowing when enough is enough. Walking through Banteay Srei, you begin to notice how nothing is accidental. Not the spacing of the carvings, not the rhythm of the scenes, not the way stories unfold across surfaces instead of dominating them. This is sacred geometry translated into craft, not abstract diagrams, not cosmic models scaled up, but human hands translating vast ideas into exact form. And I think that matters, because precision is what allows power to remain creative instead of destructive. Force alone churns endlessly. Precision gives it shape. Earlier in this journey, we saw how power is sourced, how it is aligned, how it's released back into the world. Banteay Srei asks something more demanding. How do you live with power responsibly? How do you refine it without diminishing it? How do you preserve meaning without freezing it? This temple doesn't answer those questions loudly. It answers them through care, through craftsmanship, through repetition, through restraint. Nothing here tries to overwhelm you. And that's the lesson. You're not meant to be awed into submission. You're meant to engage, to think, to notice, and to understand how meaning is shaped and not imposed. This devotion expressed as study, as attention, as discipline. Standing here, you realize something subtle but important. Refinement isn't about making something smaller. It's about making something clearer. And clarity takes work. It takes time. It takes patience. It takes precision. Banteay Srei doesn't glorify excess. It doesn't celebrate domination. It honors discernment. The understanding that not all power should be amplified. Some of it should be shaped, measured, and handled with care. In the arc of the churning, this is the moment after creation, after survival, after power has entered the world. This is where wisdom decides what comes next. And that is why Banteay Srei matters. As this part of the journey comes to a close, it feels like we've traced the story back to its beginning. The mountain, the water, the alignment, the release, and finally, the refinement. This is what the churning of ocean milk looks like when it's lived, not just remembered. If you've been watching along, thank you for being here, for slowing down, and for staying curious. If this is your first time finding this story, I'm really glad you did. This journey continues, and there's more to explore, more layers to uncover, more meaning waiting downstream. If you'd like to keep walking this path with me, make sure you're subscribed here on YouTube. You can like this video, share it with someone who feels the pull of ancient places, and follow along on Instagram and TikTok at This Sacred World for more behind the scenes and reflections from the road. For now, we pause here, and in the next episode, we return to Angkor, to the water, and to what happens when everything begins to come together. I'll see you there.